Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. I always thought, especially I'm more familiar with your teams at Trinity. I always thought the culture that you guys had there was just so powerful. I mean, you walk into that gym, not only just all the championship banners and everything, but just the sense of the community. I felt like you could feel the fans and how much they appreciated the type of basketball that they get to watch a lot, and then you turned Monterey around in a good way. And now at Plano West, what are some of your favorite culture building activities?
I think one of the things that I loved about all these jobs is of getting that challenge, right? Like taking over at Trinity, I was behind Todd Duncan, who did a great job of already establishing a culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that was like almost appealing to me in other jobs is like, hey, I've inherited a great program and kept it the standard and then try to keep raising that standard. Can I go somewhere and create my own culture? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So sometimes as a coach, so you kind of go like, man, now I'm going out and challenging that. And I think one thing that we always try to do is I think just we sometimes lose it now, but in getting your guys together and just having kind of retreats together, and I think it's kind of you see it more. It's ironic almost in the fact of you see the colleges do it, but yet high school teams, we don't do it as much, or you hear about it. Somebody's like, oh, if you got players, you got players, but you got to have that bonding with those guys. And I think that's, and each job has been different. Like even now coming down here to Plano West is the size of the school is so much larger. At Trinity, it was great, man. Those guys would do our retreats together, but you already had a high school retreat. Then we had a basketball retreat, and then they were in class together most of the day with each guy. You know what I mean? So like, they didn't have to be best friends, but they were around each other all the time.
Yeah.
And so you really get that. And then I think you go into Monterey and it was kind of the same thing. It's like, it was a shocker to some of the parents and the kids are just kind of like, we're going to do what? Like, we would go out to Cotton Center where I grew up at. And with UIL, I had to learn how to do it a little different. But then once we started official practice, we would go out to Cotton Center and have like a night out at a farmhouse and stay the night there and be able to do kind of the team bonding things we would do. And then be able to wake up the next day, have our practice, once we started in season and now that's kind of trying to figure out how to incorporate that here at West. And in the same deal, right? Like, it's a new challenge for me in the fact of we have 3 campuses now. And, it's like I know we're the only ones in Texas that have this set up with the Plano schools, and it's just a unique situation and it's a challenge. But that's also the other thing that's kind of a draw to me is like going, okay, well, now I've been a private school, Christian education, 4-year school, traditional UIL. Now let's go to this different setup. Can we do the same thing and create that bond? Because these guys, I've got guys that even on my campus, they see each other maybe once a day in passing before practice. Like they don't have interaction. So everything we do in basketball is trying to get these guys to come together. And just like me, right? Like we got guys, they're not going to hit up each other on watching like this weekend. Did they go hang out with each other? But like when you're in the seat, you got to still know that team is different. And can you get along? Can you bond together? You may not be best friends, but you're gonna be good teammates, and can you do the things there to incorporate that? And then I think the biggest challenge, even again being in a larger system, is again not only that, but to help create that culture, you got to be able to grab those parents and bring them into it, and I think the larger the setting, the harder it is.
Yeah.
But, and then you got to sell that to parents, because some parents are like, why are we going to do all this? Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like they don't see what we've seen as coaches and the importance, again, at Trinity, it was a father-son retreat for basketball, so the dads had to go with me to our retreat and they get to be around it, and you get to talk to them and they get to hear you. So a lot of times that also helped with any type of questions in the season that might be happening, right? Like those parents already had heard from you, or the dad had, the man in the household. and I get sometimes that was a challenge that not everybody had a father figure in their house, so you'd have a mentor come along. So, those types of things. And then I was able to do that again at Monterey. But it just helps that they hear you outside. They see you as a man outside of the court. They get to see you interact with their boys, their sons in that manner. And then that way now they are a little bit better in the crowd, for you as well versus barking, yelling out at different things. So I think just trying to create that off the court, relationship with the guys, but also with their extended family to really see the big picture of what you're trying to grow and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's so funny to hear you kind of talk about all these things, because I can't imagine a more different environment than Lubbock Trinity and Plano West. But also because of, like you had mentioned, who you took over from. With Todd Duncan, who's just incredible and had just this amazing culture. And then you've been able to build it at a few places. I love that you mentioned taking the guys away, from school, doing something with them outside, because that was one of the things that made me even think to do this. I was talking with a Rockwall girls coach a few years ago over Zoom. We were talking about shooting, and we somehow got off the path of shooting onto like some cool culture things she did. And it was, she took them to a cabin. She took them through this whole list of questions that got them talking and doing things. I thought, man, that's so brilliant. I wonder how many coaches have really good stuff that they do. How's it been going at Plano West? As far, what are you doing there to bring parents in? Because I agree with you. I think that's one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah, I think coming in a little bit later and the structure that we have, it has been a more challenging year in that, especially with our campus only having juniors and seniors on it, and it's just reaching out to them and kind of trying to set up conversations and it's even little things of being able to talk to them and kind of tell them why it's important to be going to coaching clinics and, why we want to have these guys outside of, the gym time and why we want to do life skills sessions with them. And, just to kind of let them see that we are investing in their kid more than what they think, and it may at times come that Christian education side background that I have is, that, part of, is like we're partnering with parents. And a lot of times, I remember going to a public school and in my first year and everybody's like, yeah, you don't have to deal with the parents at all, man. Just, you don't have to respond to an email, just kind of go cold, just cut them off, and I was like, man, I'm coming from somewhere that your full involvement, and the term we use at training all the time is, you partner with parents. And
yeah.
And I think now what I see sometimes when you do that, right, the world is so protected. It's like when you go out to try to create those relationships, sometimes, it's like, why are you doing this? What's your play on this? And it's kind of like, no, I'm just coaching your kid. This is just what I'm supposed to do,
Yeah.
And, so it is kind of it is a challenge in that, but we've tried to do things same way as having guys over over to a house for a dinner or a lunch. And I'm just, trying to interact more than just in the gym. And I think that's a big part with myself and my family is that other families, when they see you have a family, I think they begin to understand because, right, in some parents' minds, right, you don't have a kid, you don't know what it's like, so it's kind of no, I've got 4 kids. We're running around everywhere. I'm trying to be at their events, but sometimes your kids, because of my profession, trumps my own kids' events. So I need you to be respectful, right, of that I'm investing in your kid more so than right now going to my own kid's event. And that they see that so that they can't just say, well, you don't care. That's showing that you really care about them and that you're trying to be there and you're trying to help out. And we're not always going to do it right. And I think that's the one thing, that I talk to parents about is yeah, I'm going to mess up, and that's fine. Your kid's going to mess up. You're going to mess up. But what is our turn from that mess up, and a wise man I once listened to, that's one thing he always talked about. And I think society's misses, his saying was mess up, fess up, get up and move on. So it was that's kind of our deal is that if we mess up, right, we're going to fess up, we're going to own it, we're going to get up, and now we're going to go on. Because like we can't sit there and stay on it, and we've got to move on from it and just become a better man or better person for that as we go forward.
I used to take my guys through a curriculum. I got it from the football coach at Wheaton College, but I was listening to him on a podcast, and he just went through these characteristics that he felt like every man should live by. And so we took that as living, if you do these 12 things, you live without regret. And man, we would take part of practice once a week in season to go through these 12 characteristics. And I just thought it was so good. And I had a parent meeting. And of course it was about playing time, but I brought up, I was like, I'm doing all these things, these like life skills, or I'm doing these characteristics. Like, I mean, is that important to you? And he was like, yeah, it's important to me. I was like, okay, well, like, it's about your kid and him growing. Is it as like, what's more important, him getting that or him getting more playing time? And like, without even flinching, the guy said more playing time. Right. And it kind of like it hurt a little bit, because I mean, this is his, his soul in a way that like we're speaking into, him as a young man and growing. It's way beyond basketball, bigger than that. But yeah. I saw in that moment. So how important are, those life skills of that time you're spending with your players?
I think it's huge. I think everybody, obviously, if any kid we talk to, right, their goal is to play at the next level. Like right now, that's what they always say. I'm going to play. I want to play on, and I wish kids more so. I feel like even when I was growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to go on, and I wasn't recruited, but it was just kind of like I had that goal, but it was like I'm going to play hard and enjoy this. Like we're no longer in our moments. Like we forget to enjoy the moment, and we're just saying like I'm doing this only for this, and so I think that is where like these life skills come in, is because getting to work with the NCAA some, and they talk about it's like teaching everybody, right, the ball will stop eventually. The ball stops. I feel like for us, like the argument is like we keep it going for us because now we're coaching and we're still around the game and we're investing in kids, but like we're not playing anymore. Eventually
I don't take a shot all year long.
Yeah, the ball is going to stop for you, and I think it's so important because like right now, all these guys are thinking, well, this is where I want to be next, and like it's going back and saying like, hey, at the end of the day, if you're going to go on to college or you're going to go to trade school, whatever your profession is, like, and you're saying playing basketball, kind of like you said, the playing time, the school that even recruits you, do they even have a degree that you're wanting to go after? Like, so is playing more important to say you played, or is it more important that you go somewhere where you can have the major that you need for the profession you want when the ball stops? And so I just feel like it's teaching them to enjoy the moment more than what they do, and especially now in a bigger school setting, right? Not everybody, like one of the toughest things that we have to do is you're cutting kids, and it's going like I'm making the selection that the ball is stopping for them, and I dislike that. You wish every player could just choose when the ball stops for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes, sometimes as coaches, we're the ones selecting it, and the ball stops. And did we prepare you for when that happens? Or a kid has an injury, were you ready? Did you have anything else? Like you said, like we help prepare your soul of knowing there's more than just that court and that ball. Like if you had an injury that ended your season and you lost your senior year, like could you still enjoy it? Did you're going to have that disappointment, but did we get you there? And I think it's just, like I said, it's just training them up like our own sons in that is, I think, and that's one of the things we talk to parents about is like, I go every year I end up becoming a stepdad of 10 to 14 guys. Like, so yeah, I care about the guy who's not playing. I care about the guy who's playing a lot equally across the board, and they're going to get treated the same way, versus like it being different of like they didn't play and I treat them different. They're going to get treated all the same. And so I know like, yeah, that guy's hurt right now. So I've got to make sure like, where's his spirits at? Is he good where he is? Can he continue to do this? Can he go through this adversity in his life to help prepare him for later on? Because at the end of the day, it just was, I do like, we're all on teams. Did we help prepare them for whatever team they're eventually going to be on for whenever they didn't get the promotion or they got the promotion or they missed out on a job that they wanted, but they still need a job. Like, so did we help prepare them from using our team? Those types of aspects. And so I think it's so important to go back and just teach the guys about, at the end of the day, it's life. And we're using basketball as our tool to teach them about life and prepare them for any adversity or success they might have in the future.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.